Post-traumatic growth is a term coined by University of North Carolina psychologist Richard, something with a T, and Lawrence Calhoun. They describe the benefits that many survivors discover in the process of healing from a traumatic event. In this article, which I will link below, they went through some of the different steps that they recommend that you go through to kind of help process trauma.
Few things are as powerful.
I know when I was talking to people a lot more frequently on Twitter than what I've been able to lately, the benefit of that is that you can talk to people all over the world, and you can definitely get an impression of how much abuse and trauma are a thing all over the world. And whether you're in America or you're somewhere else, sometimes counseling is not an easy thing to access. And in my honest opinion, there's a big difference between counseling and trauma therapy. A normal counselor is not trained in trauma. They do not know how to effectively process trauma. It's a different skill set. So even if you can get to a counselor, the amount of counselors that are trained in trauma is a significantly less number. So to be in America where we have so much opportunity, and then you have less opportunity if you can actually get into a counselor because some people don't have insurance, and for whatever reason, counselors tend to be pretty expensive, and then even less of a chance of getting into a trauma counselor. Or you're in a different country and that's just completely not even on the table of options for you, then the internet is a good resource for a lot of things. So a few of the things that these guys recommend are mindfulness, starting each day with a mindfulness meditation and breathing exercises. I will tell you, I am not good at this, consistently. I'm not good at doing this consistently, but there is a 4x4 breathing technique that I have held on to for years. It's probably the only thing that my trauma counselor went through with me that I really still hold on to. You can find instructions for it on my website at aprilhardy.com, but it's called 4x4 breathing, and it is extremely powerful because it calms your mind and your body at the same time. Whether you choose to do that one or a different one, controlling your breathing is important, and being mindful, being aware of your body and your surroundings and time, because dissociation is a huge factor for a lot of people who've experienced trauma, and we sort of detach from reality. So grounding is a mindfulness exercise too that's important. Pretty sure I have some techniques for grounding on my site also. Vulnerability. Post-traumatic growth is not the opposite of post-traumatic stress. Rather, the stress is the engine that fuels the growth. Before we can overcome suffering, we need to go through it. Covering up a raw wound with a smiley face band-aid does not lessen the pain. Neither does suffering in silence, which only increases the risk of PTSD. Instead, growth arises from acknowledging the wounds and allowing vulnerability. They recommend learning to communicate openly, to admit fears, and to reach out for help. That is not an easy thing always. Find meaning. I was on a panel one time with women that were speaking on pain and suffering. And this woman talked about some suffering that she had gone through in her life, and I honestly don't even remember now what it was. And that sounds terrible, but that wasn't what struck me. I will never forget her talking about her greatest struggle with it is not understanding why it happened. And she talked about how people who figure out meaning, find meaning, see meaning in their struggles, she's kind of jealous of because it gives them a reason for it, and just needless trauma for no purpose. She was sort of drowning in it. And I think you can take that a couple of ways. I think that you can look for the meaning and the purpose out there. You tell me, what is the meaning and the purpose of my pain and my trauma, my struggle? Or you can look for it in here. Nobody told me, oh, because you have been through so much abuse, you should go be an advocate for people who have experienced abuse. Nobody told me that. I did that. I decided that was going to be the meaning. That was going to be the purpose for it. Not that, the people that abused me, they were not thinking in their minds, I'm going to do this so that then later she can go be online and be an author and be an advocate and talk to people and have a YouTube page. I guarantee that was not what was going through their mind. But that's the meaning I decided to assign to it. It wasn't given to me by somebody else. I decided, okay, I have this. Here it is. This is my trauma. What am I going to do with it? Am I going to be a victim my entire life and just decide, well, woe is me, that's just the way it is? Or am I going to give it a meaning that allows me to be strong and allows me to move forward and allows me to take other people with me as I go forward? I did that. You can do that too. Gratitude. Gratitude makes everything better. It really does. I read a book 3 or 4 years ago, maybe, called 1,000 Gifts. I thought it was really good. The whole thing is she was given a challenge to write 1,000 things that she was grateful for. And, she talks about how at first she wrote down those things that come to your mind really easy to be grateful for. I'm grateful for my kids. I'm grateful for my husband. I'm grateful for my home. And that lasted for like a day. But the challenge was that she couldn't rewrite any of those. You can't rewrite the same 5 things you're grateful for until you hit 1,000. You have to literally come up with 1,000 different things. And through this process, through this journey, she came to understand that she couldn't just be grateful for those things that sounded happy, because there was value and meaning and purpose in the things that didn't always feel good also. She called it the hard Eucharisteo, the hard thankfulness. So a less hard thankfulness when I was trying to do this, and I need to go back to it because it really is valuable. Get yourself a journal and just start trying to challenge yourself. Can I come up with 5 things today? Can I come up with 10 things today that I'm grateful for? One of mine, when I was doing it, was railroad crossings. Because I'm always in a hurry. I have stuff going on all of the time, and I schedule my stuff up to the minute. So if anything happens, I have 0 buffer time. So I'm always rushing. And I hate railroad crossings. I hate getting stuck at railroad crossings. Especially then. Every time it was like, why? I need to go. And so I'm thinking, okay, all right, okay, fine. What can I be thankful for in this experience? So I'm sitting at the railroad crossing. Train's going by way slower than I would like for it to, and which, to be honest, is any amount of time at all. But then I noticed the sky. It's kind of pretty. I suppose I'm rushing so much I don't look at the sky a lot. The sunset's pretty. Notice the grass. Notice other stuff that when I'm in a hurry I just don't notice. And I got myself to the point where I could be grateful for that. And instead of looking at it like it was an inconvenience that I had to stop and wait for these trains, then it became, okay, I'm grateful for this opportunity to pause for a minute, to get out of the crazy rushingness that is the majority of my life and just be mindful, just be aware of the fact that I'm a very small piece in this world. My life is not the world. And it's really easy to get into that in the grind of things. Not that you actually think that you're the world, but you lose focus of everything else because you're so tunnel focused. So that was a good time to get outside of myself a little bit. Gratitude is fantastic. It's going to be one of your strongest weapons. So I challenge you, 5 to 10 things a day. Get yourself a journal or a notebook and just write down things you can be grateful for, even hard stuff. I'm grateful that my boss was a jerk today because I got to practice patience, or I'm a more gracious person because I had to deal with his punk butt. Whatever. A holistic approach. They recommend that you look at life as a whole. You're a whole being. So you need to look at dealing with your trauma in a whole way. Is counseling important? Yes, that's a part of it. Getting enough sleep is important. Eating decent foods is important. Making sure you're hydrated is important. Making sure that you make time to try to have fun and to socialize and connect with people. The natural inclination is to hide and to isolate and push everybody away. And that's not going to be helpful for you. Making sure that you're dealing in a good way with the spiritual aspect of yourself. All of those things are important. They're all you. They're all a part of you. Trauma is going to affect all of them. It's going to affect your entire life because it affects you. So you have to deal with your entire life in that way, in a holistic kind of way. You can't go to counseling, as great as that counselor might be, and never sleep and be hungry all the time. Have you not ever seen the Snickers commercials where you're hangry? It's a thing, right? It affects your emotions when you're hungry. And I guarantee you, if you're tired, if you're exhausted, it affects everything. You cannot be good and be exhausted. So that's important. You can't be good and be dehydrated. I am still working on that. I'm not great at it, but it's important. And then they stress the fact that their program is a team effort. And so for this video, I would just say you're not alone. And you don't need to go through stuff alone. You shouldn't go through stuff alone. So if you don't already have a support system in place, then you need to connect with a support system. Support systems can be counselors, can be church family, can be Al-Anon or other support groups, can be online support groups, could be other people that talk on Reddit, could be people that are involved in the same hobbies as you. You don't have to talk about your trauma constantly. You can just go be with other people doing things that are going to make you happy or feel complete or feel like you're benefiting somebody. Thanks for watching. I'll do my part to keep you safe by continuing to put out weekly videos about all things related to intimate partner violence. If you haven't already, please do your part by subscribing to this channel and hitting the notification button so that you don't miss a single video. Bonus points if you share videos with people that you believe will benefit from the information. Until I see you again, stay safe.